Hi there, circles. So we're going to change a bit of topic really here, aren't we? Do something a bit different. And first thing I want you to do is have a look at the circle, have a look at the bits that I've labelled, the different parts of it on there, and think about what the different names are for those different bits of the circle. Okay, and so press pause on the video. You could write them down or just keep them in your head. I'd rather you wrote them down, but you haven't got anything to write with. You'll have to do it in your head and see if you can figure out what those names are. So pause the video and unpause when you're done. Okay, so we've unpaused. Let's have a little look at what these things are then. So let's do them one at a time. Right, so there's our circle. Now the thing that's actually around the outside is called the circumference. And what we mean by the circumference is, if I put a little marker there, we mean the distance all the way around the outside. It's basically the circle. You know, how far is that circle is what we call the circumference. Okay, essentially the perimeter of the circle. Then, what about this one? Now this comes from there's the center of the circle, so it's from the center to the outside. This is a radius. This is a radius. It just goes from the center directly to the outside. And it doesn't matter where you draw the radius, it will be a straight line and it will always be exactly the same length because it's always the same distance from the center to the outside. Each one of these would be a radius. Okay. But what if we go all the way across? Well, if we go all the way across, it's called a diameter. Again, it has to go through the middle. It's not just any old line from one side to another. If you have one line that goes from one side to the other, that is called a chord. But it's called a diameter when it goes through the middle. And this is like a slice of cake. You've got your cake, you're looking down on it, you cut your slice. This is called a sector. And similar word, this one looks more like a bit of orange, doesn't it? You take a lump of orange out of it, and what is an orange segment? And that's exactly what this is. It's a segment. So if you've got a line from one side to the other of a circle, the area that's sort of enclosed on either side of that is called a segment. Now remember, we said that the actual line itself from one side to the other is called a chord. And last one, this one. Now this line here is a straight line and it just touches the edge of the circle at one point. It doesn't cross through in two places, you know, because this line crosses through in two places. It has to be where it only meets at one point, and this we call a tangent. It's a tangent to the circle. It's just a line that's just sort of just resting against the circle at one particular point. Now these are the two that people really quite often get confused, the sector and the segment. So do try and remember, sector is like a slice of cake, segment is like a slice of orange, a segment of orange when you look on the side there. And here we are. So what's this one called, remember? It's a diameter. And then, of course, we've got the radius as well. Now, let's think about what the radius is. The radius goes from the center to the outside. So if that's my radius, well, actually, we could do a radius from the center to the outside along that part of the diameter, couldn't we? And we could do it the other side as well. So there's one radius, there's another radius, but all the way across is a diameter. So what we say here is that two radiuses is the same as one diameter. So if I know either of those, I can find the other one because one is double the other. You know, you need two radiuses to make up the diameter. Now then, what have we got here? So, there we go. There's another diameter. Right, what I'm going to think of now, I'm going to take that diameter and I'm going to lay it around the outside of my circle. And I'm going to sort of see how many times I can do that. So, there's my diameter and I've sort of curved it around the outside of my circle. Now, really, obviously, it should be on the circle. I've just drawn it slightly off of the circle just so you can, you know, you can see that it's there. And then there's another one. So that's two, you know. So, okay, so we've got one there. That's the second one. That's two. And let's do a third one. That's three. So I can get three diameters around the outside. But look, there's a bit of a gap here It's a bit more than 3, isn't it? And in fact, on every single circle, if you take the diameter, the measurement all the way across from one side to the other going through the centre, you can lay it round the outside of any circle just a little bit more than 3 times. And in fact, it's exactly 3.1415926535 etc. times. That's exactly how many times you can fit a diameter around the outside of your circle. Now I've put 3 little dots here because actually these decimal places go on forever and they never stop and there's no pattern to them. It's an irrational number, and you might have seen this number before. Okay, just keep in mind this is the number of times the diameter will fit around the circle. This number we use a special letter to represent it, because look, there's so many decimal places, an infinite amount of them, that it would just take too long to write them all out. So instead we just use a letter, and we use a Greek letter, and that letter is this one, and this letter is pi. Greek letter pi, which you might have heard of. It's spelt slightly differently to the sort of cherry pie that you eat, because there's no E on the end, it's just pi. And that letter there just represents this number. Just something that's just a little bit more than 3. All right? So that's exactly what pi is. It is just the number of times that you could fit a diameter around a circle. And what I want you to do is, because this is quite a short lesson today, but you're going to go off and do some work on your own, I want you to investigate that. Okay, what you do is find some circles around the room or around your house or wherever, or outside or wherever you can find some circles. Okay, and there's a couple of ideas. You could maybe the end of a glue stick or something like that, or a sellotape roll, or a sweet tin like a Heroes tin, or Quality Street or something like that, or a Pringles tube, or a bike wheel, or maybe a saucepan, or a bottle, anything that is circular. Okay, and I want you to draw out this table. Now I will include a PDF of this table, so if you do have a printer at home you can print it, but I'm not expecting you to. You can just get your ruler, get your pencil or pen, and just draw out a table just with these columns. So the object, so you're going to write down what the name of the object is, and then you've got 3 other columns there: diameter, circumference, and the thing I'll come to in a sec. Because this is what I want you to do. I want you to measure the diameter. So if you've got an object, let's say I've done a bottle, and I might say let's measure the diameter. I'm just looking at a bottle from here, and the diameter might be, say, 9.8 centimeters, and I would go to the nearest millimeter. So so go not just the whole centimeters, but in this case 9.8. Yeah, and then you're going to measure the distance around the outside. So you need to get, I've got a video in a minute, I'll explain what I mean by that, but measure the distance around the outside. Oh, sorry, I was just grabbing my calculator, just hold on. And measure that circumference and then write it down. So let's say my bottle is 30.9 centimeters. Okay, then the next thing you're going to do is divide the circumference by the diameter. So there we go. Just take that circumference measurements you've got and divide it by the diameter. So I would do, with my example, 30.9 divided by 9.8, and then write down just maybe the first couple of decimal places here. So 3.15. And write that down in the circumference divided by diameter bit. Oh, my screen's gone mad. No, I don't want that. Okay, write the answer in the table, just like I said. Yeah, okay, so you can do that for each object that you can find, as many as you can do. Then I want you to have a little think. Are they all about 3.14? So are they all roughly the same as pi? Well, 3.15 is pretty close, actually, to 3.14, isn't it? So that's what I want you to do. I want to see if they are the same. Now there's a video just coming up now that will explain how you might be able to measure it. You shouldn't need much specialist equipment. Okay? Right, okay, so this is my little instruction video of how to do the measuring part. Now you've already got the instructions of what you're measuring, but let's have a little look at what I sort of mean. So here I've got my round thing. Here's my circle at the bottom, and what is it? An old Celebrations tub. Now measuring the diameter is really easy because I've got a ruler here and it's just a straight line. I just got to make sure that I've gone to the widest point and maybe do it to the nearest millimetre. So that's 21.2 centimetres or 212 millimetres, whichever you want to use. Probably centimetres with 21.2 maybe. That's nice and easy. But what about the curved bit? What about the circumference around the outside? Now, my ruler isn't going to bend around there. Maybe you've got a bendy ruler. In that case, it's really easy because you just need to bend it. If it doesn't stretch all the way, just mark where you've got to, and then mark, measure the next bit, until you've gone all the way round, and then add it together to get the whole circumference. Now, it's a whole lot easier if you're lucky enough to have one of these. It's like a dressmaker's sort of tape measure thing. The only thing is make sure you're using the centimetre side, not the inches side, okay? Because then you can obviously, that's nice and easy because you could just wrap it all the way round and you could see whatever your circumference is, which is, what's my circumference? 67.4, I think, 67.4 centimetres. Or another alternative, maybe you've got one of these tape measures lying around because they're nice and flexible. Maybe a bit trickier, and you have to be a bit careful because it's a bit sharp. But you might be able to wrap that all the way around the outside. Or even, cool, I found this one I was looking around as well. Here's another big fabric tape measure. Okay, but if you haven't got any of those, you can improvise. Because if you could find a bit of string or something you could use a string, some old ribbon or something like that, what you could do is wrap that all the way around the outside and mark where it gets to. So there's my mark. Then you can lay it out flat and you could put a ruler on that and you could measure how long that is. I think we're looking at that, 67.4 I think. So right, that's another way you could do it. So there's all sorts of ways that you could have a go, and just do your best. Now it's likely that your measurements, when you do your division, so what did I say I had? I had, my circumference was 67.4, wasn't it? And I'm going to divide it by my diameter that I said was 21.2, and it should be around about 3.1792, which is pretty close to pi, isn't it? That's pretty close to 3.14, and that's what you should be finding. Now, if you find that you've got something really different, like 15, then you've probably measured it wrong, or maybe you've not measured all the way across. Maybe you've not measured the diameter. Maybe you've only measured the radius from the centre or something. Okay? But anyway, just have a bit of fun. Be experimental, see what you can do. Find the circles around your house. And they have to be circles. Ovals will not do. They've got to be circular. All right? Okay, so there are some ideas of how you might go about actually measuring. Okay, and I want you to, once you've done this, I want you to upload it to, I'm going to start a Google Classroom for us, and there'll be a task in there. Just take a little photo of your table, or if you've typed it up in Word or something like that, obviously just send that file to me, or send a PDF, send anything that I can see, so I can see that you've done that table and done your investigation. Okay, right, good luck with that, and I'll speak to you soon.